Close your eyes and picture it. A vast, sun-scorched expanse of Nevada desert, stretching to a horizon that shimmers with heat. In the distance, a collection of nondescript buildings and an impossibly long runway are nestled beside a dry lakebed. Surrounding it all is a perimeter fence, punctuated by stark, intimidating signs that warn against trespassing, promising the use of deadly force. This is Area 51. For more than half a century, this patch of barren land has been the epicenter of global speculation, the most famous secret place on Earth, and the single location most synonymous with one tantalizing, explosive idea: we are not alone. The legend is as vast as the desert sky above it. It's a story of crashed saucers, reverse-engineered alien technology, and extraterrestrial beings kept in subterranean labs, their secrets guarded by a shadow government with unlimited resources. It has fueled countless books, movies, and late-night talk radio shows, turning ordinary people into devoted ufologists who camp by its borders, armed with long-lens cameras and the unshakable conviction that they are watching history unfold. But here lies the fundamental paradox. In an age of commercial satellite imagery, global connectivity, and relentless data leaks, how has this one location so effectively maintained its mystique? How, when we can zoom in on nearly any point on the globe from our phones, has Area 51 remained a black hole of information, a void that we have filled with our most fantastic dreams and fears? What if the reason for its enduring secrecy has nothing to do with little green men? What if the most popular answer, the one involving aliens and starships, isn't just wrong, but is in fact the very answer we were always meant to find? The truth may be that the secrecy around Area 51 worked not in spite of the UFO legends, but because of them. The real story isn't one of interstellar cover-ups, but of a brilliant, deeply cynical, and ultimately disturbing psychological strategy that turned the public's own imagination into the perfect smokescreen for a secret far more grounded in the fears of our own world. To understand how this grand deception began, we must travel back to the dawn of the Cold War. The year is 1954. The world is cleaved in two, shadowed by the looming threat of thermonuclear annihilation. In the halls of Washington, an almost unbearable paranoia has taken hold. The Soviet Union, hidden behind the Iron Curtain, is a vast and terrifying unknown. Does it have a bomber fleet capable of reaching America? How many nuclear weapons does it possess? The survival of the United States, it was believed, depended on answering these questions. The problem was how. Any conventional spy plane flying over Soviet territory would be instantly detected and shot down. The answer came from the brilliant, maverick mind of Lockheed engineer Clarence Kelly Johnson and his secretive Skunk Works division. The proposal, codenamed Project Equaton, was for an aircraft unlike any other, a slender, glider-like jet called the U-2. It was designed to do one thing magnificently: fly higher than anyone thought possible. The U-2 could soar to altitudes exceeding 60 feet, a realm of the sky previously untouched by man. At this height, it was believed to be invisible to Soviet radar and safe from their jet fighters and anti-aircraft missiles. But to test such a radical machine, they needed a place that was, for all intents and purposes, nowhere. They found it at Groom Lake, a remote, forgotten salt flat in the Nevada desert that was already under the control of the Atomic Energy Commission. It was perfect. It was Area 51. As U-2 test flights began in the mid-1950s, an unexpected but incredibly useful side effect emerged. In that era, commercial airliners chugged along at altitudes between 10, 0, and 20, 0 feet. Military fighter jets rarely pushed past 40, 0 feet. Suddenly, airline pilots and other observers on the ground began reporting strange phenomena. They saw glints of light and mysterious objects at altitudes and speeds that defied all known aviation capabilities. What they were seeing, of course, was the silver-painted U-2, its wings catching the sun in the thin air of the stratosphere, appearing as an ethereal, almost otherworldly object against the deep blue-black of the high-altitude sky. The Air Force was inundated with reports of these unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, and here, the seeds of the Great Misdirection were sown. CIA and Air Force officials, tasked with investigating these sightings, found themselves in a convenient bind. They could not reveal the existence of the top-secret U-2 program. So, they created Project Blue Book, an official study to investigate UFO reports. In public, they attributed the sightings to high-altitude weather phenomena, or ice crystals, explanations that were technically plausible but often unsatisfying. They never lied and said it was aliens. They didn't have to. By dismissing the sightings with vague or incomplete explanations, they allowed a vacuum of mystery to form. And into that vacuum, the public, already primed by science fiction and a growing fascination with space, poured one single electrifying explanation: extraterrestrial visitors. The CIA quickly realized that the UFO craze was not a problem to be managed, but a gift to be exploited. It was the perfect cover story, one they didn't even have to write themselves. If the U2 inadvertently created the myth, its successors would transform it into an art form. By the early 1960s, the U2 was vulnerable. The Soviets had developed new surface-to-air missiles, a fact tragically proven when pilot Francis Gary Powers was shot down in 1960. The CIA needed something faster, higher, and stealthier. Once again, they turned to Kelly Johnson and the Skunk Works, and once again, the crucible for this new technology was Area 51. The result was Project Oxcart, an aircraft so futuristic it might as well have come from another galaxy, the A-12. The A-12 and its more famous Air Force successor, the SR-71 Blackbird, were not just airplanes, they were science fiction made real. Forged primarily from titanium to withstand the ferocious heat of high-speed flight, its shape was a series of menacing, curved black surfaces designed to baffle radar. It flew at a blistering speed of over 200 miles per hour. Mach 3, faster than a rifle bulletin, operated at altitudes above 85,000 feet at the very edge of space. During its nighttime test flights over Nevada, the A-12 was a truly terrifying spectacle. Its titanium fuselage would heat up to hundreds of degrees, causing the entire airframe to glow with a faint, reddish-orange light as it streaked silently across the sky, outrunning its own sound. This is where the strategy shifted from passive opportunism to a form of deliberate psychological warfare. The government knew what these test flights looked like to the public. They looked exactly like the flying saucers of pulp magazines, and that was perfect. The reports flooding into Project Blue Book became even more fantastic. Eyewitnesses described silent, glowing objects making impossible turns and accelerating at unbelievable speeds. The official response remained the same: a shrug and a vague explanation. But unofficially, the intelligence community embraced the alien narrative. It was the ultimate misdirection. Why would the Soviets or anyone else ever suspect the US had developed a Mach 3 titanium spy plane when a much more sensational story, a captured alien vessel, was readily available and eagerly consumed? The myth had been weaponized. The public's fascination with the extraterrestrial became the government's most effective layer of camouflage. This reached its zenith in the late 1980s with the explosive story of Bob Lazar, a man who claimed to have worked at a site near Area 51 called S4, where he allegedly helped reverse engineer alien spacecraft. Lazar's detailed accounts of anti-gravity propulsion and otherworldly power sources captivated the world. Whether his story was true, a delusion, or a fabrication is, in this context, irrelevant. Its effect was what mattered. It cemented Area 51 in the global consciousness as the definitive home of alien secrets, pulling a final, impenetrable curtain over the very real, but now comparatively mundane, history of developing the U-2, A-12, F-117 Nighthawk, and other terrestrial next-generation military aircraft. The deception was complete. The world was looking for flying saucers, while the real secrets flew right over their heads. The problem with a perfectly crafted lie is that it can take on a life of its own. The psychological screen created around Area 51 was a stunning success for its Cold War objectives. It protected America's most vital espionage secrets by hiding them behind a narrative so fantastic it was immune to conventional intelligence analysis. But this success came at a steep and deeply unsettling long-term price. The lie escaped the control of its creators and metastasized into something they could never have anticipated, a foundational pillar of modern conspiracy culture. The UFO narrative, which the government had so skillfully nurtured as a distraction, became a self-perpetuating belief system. It no longer needed vague official denials or strange lights in the sky to sustain it. It had its own prophets, its own sacred texts, and a community of believers whose faith was unshakable. The unintended consequence was a profound and lasting erosion of public trust. For decades, the government had engaged in a deliberate campaign to obscure the truth. They had looked the American people in the eye and, while not explicitly lying, had actively misled them. This creates a dangerous legacy. When the same institutions that masterminded this deception later attempt to be transparent about other matters, whether it's public health, foreign policy, or economic data, they are met with a wall of skepticism they themselves helped to build. The calculated ambiguity surrounding Area 51 taught millions of people a powerful lesson that the official story is rarely the real story and that the government is a purveyor of secrets and lies. It created a permanent feedback loop of distrust. Any attempt by the government to debunk the alien myth is now seen by many as simply a more sophisticated layer of the cover-up. The greatest irony is that today, much of the once top-secret history of Area 51 is publicly known. The CIA has officially acknowledged the base's existence and has declassified thousands of documents on the U-2 and Oxcart programs. The SR-71 Blackbird, that once mythical specter of the night sky, now sits in museums for all to see. Yet, the truth is received with a collective yawn, while the myth continues to thrive. The declassified facts are seen as boring, mundane. The story of clever engineers building remarkable airplanes simply cannot compete with the epic saga of alien contact and cosmic cover-ups. The secrecy worked, but it left a permanent scar on the relationship between the government and the governed. It succeeded in hiding its planes, but in the process, it helped to unmoor a segment of society from reality itself. In the end, the story of Area 51 is not about what might be hidden in its heavily guarded hangars, but about the secrets we hide in plain sight. The true disturbing reason the secrecy worked is that the United States government discovered the ultimate form of camouflage, a more interesting lie. They didn't need to build higher walls or deeper bunkers to protect their secrets. They just needed to tell a better story. They hijacked our collective imagination, transforming their terrestrial programs of espionage and advanced aeronautics into a modern mythology of extraterrestrial visitation. The greatest secret of Area 51, therefore, is not an alien, but a psychological masterstroke. It teaches us a profound and uncomfortable lesson about the nature of truth and belief. It demonstrates that the most effective way to hide something is not to deny its existence, but to frame it within a narrative so compelling, so spectacular, that the mundane reality behind it becomes uninteresting by comparison. The legend of Area 51 persists not because of a lack of evidence for the real story, but because of an abundance of faith in the fabricated one. It reveals the unsettling power of narrative to shape our perception of reality, and it shows how easily our own innate curiosity and desire for wonder can be marshaled and used as tools of misdirection. As we look out at a world filled with its own mysteries and conspiracies, the tale of this lonely patch of desert should serve as a cautionary one. It forces us to ask a difficult question: what other grand deceptions might be hiding in plain sight, concealed not by force, but by the allure of a story we desperately want to believe? The legacy of Area 51 is the realization that sometimes the most impenetrable secrets are not locked away in a vault, they are broadcast to the world, disguised as fiction,